everyone. Welcome to the Work It Podcast number 14, where EQ meets IQ, training workplace success. Today, we have Richard Thomas that is going to be the host for this week's podcast, and he'll be interviewing Jessica DuPont, who is a sustainability leader, a student right now, but in the very near future, she will be making a difference in the world of environmental science. So we welcome her, and this podcast is being sponsored by Work It, and you can visit workitcareers.com for more information on how you can discover and awaken your true career path, just as these two students have. So welcome, Richard Thomas. First, we'll start with you. Are you ready to take on the world of podcasting?
I am ready, more than ready, and I'm from Bristol, Connecticut. I'm a student at Bristol Central, and I'm definitely going to be a meteorologist in 2025. I am interviewing Jessica DuPont today, and I'm very excited, so tell me about yourself.
Thank you. I live in Plymouth, Connecticut right now. I went to Terryville High School, and I currently go to Siena College and study environmental science there. I do a lot of work there, and I'm really passionate about sustainability and making a difference in that field, a difference that we really need.
Okay, so right off the bat, tell me and everyone what sustainability is to you.
Sustainability, to me, there's a lot of definitions, but basically it's the way in which we can live right now, the best lives that we have now without compromising the well-being of future generations. So right now we don't really live sustainably. We pretty almost use 2 Earths worth of resources when we only have one, and it's really hurting us in future generations. So, and we really need to improve the sustainable field, making sure we can keep living into the future and save the humans.
Right. So you obviously seem very interested in this, and that leads me to my next question. When did you get interested, and how did you get interested in environmental science?
I'm a little bit quirky, so when I was younger, and even now, I could not throw away any recyclables. I had a can or a water bottle, and if there was only a garbage bin around, it would hurt every time I went to throw it away, or I would fill up my bag during softball with water bottles and take it all the way home to recycle them. I guess that I I hit existential dread when I was in 7th grade. I realized how bad we are to the earth and how we can't keep living on it if we live this way. And I guess that's stuck with me. I thought I was going on a different career path until my mentor in high school, Mr. Nave, shout out to you. My very first few days at the high school, we had a student council, and at the meeting, Mr. Nave asked if there's anything that we noticed around that we could change or what's bothering us in the school. And I asked, why don't we recycle here? Because we threw everything into the trash or the recycling bin, but the recycling bin had a trash bag on it and it would be thrown in the trash anyway. And he said, well, that's really interesting. That's a really good question. And so we created the recycling committee, and I led it with him, and we worked and we organized throughout the entire school. How do we start recycling? And in the years since that has been started, I did that my freshman year. The school has saved, I would say, like $1,000. I got that very good estimate from Mr. Nave, about $1,000 every year since we've started that, because you pay for trash to be taken out, but you don't pay for recycling to be taken out. And they cut down trash pickup from twice a week to every other week. So that's really when I started getting interested. And about my junior year, I went to a scientific congress. I thought I was going to be a pathologist for some reason. And they said, if you really want to make a difference in the world, you do what you're passionate about. And that's when I realized that I do have a passion. I'm not passionate about the medical field. I'm passionate about things that we aren't doing right and educating people. And the worst part is, what we're doing to our earth and our environment.
Right. So doing that with your mentor and everything, and seeing it actually work, that made your eyes light up and got you excited, right?
Definitely.
All right, so obviously this takes schooling to be,
Mm-hmm.
and what kind of classes have you taken?
So far, I'm an environmental science student. So what that means is that I have to fulfill the New York science requirement, take chemistry, calculus. So I've basically done all my core classes for a science major, and now I'm going into the more in-depth stuff. And I really like my environmental internship class, looking out for jobs in my profession. And I realized that there really is a lot out there, and through that class, I got connected to a sustainability conference, the C2C conference, like class two. I forgot what it stands for, but that was at Bard College, and that was a whole sustainability workshop over the weekend, and that really let me know that I was interested. That's the exact field that I want to go into. And but one of my a class I took last semester was sustainable campus. That was amazing. We had to design our own project that we would create and then pitch to a board who would decide which project that they're going to implement. So I came up with the project. It's a light switch. It's so what I came up with is to install motion sensor lights in classrooms and bathrooms that always have their lights on 24/7. And by the end of the project proposal, we found out that by targeting 11 11 rooms just around the campus, that we could save approximately $4,000 a
Wow.
year in electricity. Yeah, so or at least that first year, and if they kept going with that project, then they could save even more money. So we focused it on sustainability isn't just good for our environment and keeping us alive, thinking about the future, but it also has real immediate benefits to us, like money.
Right, that's awesome.
Thank you. So that was probably my favorite class that I
Yeah.
took.
So you've done a lot already. So
Oh
like
yeah.
yeah. So what do you plan on doing in the future? Close future, far future?
For well, speaking of in the future, I've done a lot. I've done more stuff in the past, and that's really prepared me for more projects in the future. Education wise, I'd like to get to finish my bachelor's degree, then go on to graduate school. I'm hoping for a PhD because Dr. DuPont sounds really cool. And
I agree. I
yeah,
agree.
yeah. And I really like education. I like knowing what I didn't know before and helping to educate people on what they don't know. So I really want to become an expert in my field, and through the process of going through education, I'd like to really get into depth. What do I really want to focus on? But any career that I can do would really make a difference.
That seems very interesting, and I'm happy for you. That's awesome. So we're gonna get into a fun question because I know we are not the best country, actually probably one of the worst. So my question for you is, what are some other places that are doing a lot of things better than us?
Yeah,
Give me some examples.
well, this country's great, but not as great with a lot of fields that we think that we should be, like sustainability. We are definitely not a global leader. The average American uses, I forget the statistic, but it's easily found. They use like 30% more, or 300 30 times more
Right.
resources than the average person on Earth. We have such a huge global impact, but we're not sustainable in many ways. Yes, some places recycle, but we don't have the programs that we should, or up to the standards. A lot of other countries are leading the 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 market with innovation, and in this area, like Germany has my favorite disposal program where they get rid of their it's not trash, it's resources. What we have, what we throw away, what we dispose of, we can use that again in almost every instance. They have a municipal compost bin that they set out. They have a recycling bin and they have a trash bin, but their recycling is split up. They have metal, they have glass, they have I'm not sure if they have wood, but definitely cardboard and paper. But they have different bins, and it's widespread, and they're very good at that. I know a lot of people put a lot of blame on China for some reason. They've actually been taking in a lot of our recycling up until lately. There's a number like 70% or 90% of all of our recyclables is shipped over to China. If you've stayed up to date in this, you know that is no longer the problem. So I really don't know what's going to happen with our recycling programs anymore. But they're doing wonderful things in switching over from fossil fuels into renewable resources. I read an article that they took an old mine that for coal, and they converted it completely into a solar factory. So they're really trying to become a world leader in this area. And same as Denmark. Denmark is probably the world leader, I would say, in wind power. They in sustainable power. They powered their country for an entire day on wind power, and they can do it for months at a time. It's really incredible, and it's what we need to step up to. They've been doing it for a while, and we just really don't pay attention to the rest of the world, only on ourselves, unfortunately, a lot of the time.
Right. So we really do need to step up. We're behind.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're definitely going to be the one to help us out.
I sure hope so.
Okay, so obviously I want to do meteorology if you guys checked out the last podcast. And I follow other meteorologists, right?
Mhm.
So what are some environmental leaders that you follow?
So the biggest one I would say would be Al Gore. I remember he didn't win the presidency, but he did make such a huge impact on the rest of the country through his production skills and making the very famous movie An Inconvenient Truth, and the inconvenient sequel as well, Truth to Power. And I think I watched that when I was like 7 or 8, and that I don't have any definites, but that might have been the movie that opened my eyes at such a young age and put it in the back of my mind that wow, this is really bad. So that actually might have been the inspiration, but he's doing a wonderful job with his education programs and training people to become sustainable leaders and leaders in trying to make our country green and to where it really should be. And I don't think I'll ever be able to do it, but I'd like to be part of one of those programs someday.
Yeah, you definitely can. So we were talking earlier before this podcast started, and you said there's a difference between environmentalist and calling someone that, and so my question is, would you consider yourself an environmentalist? And if not, what do you think an environmentalist is?
So a lot of when you hear about someone trying to make a change in the world or something that's flashy, it's usually like Greenpeace, this environmentalist organization. You don't need a degree to go out and hug a tree and to chain yourself to it to stop it from being cut down, or to hang on a crane over the White House, which happened. They've done some crazy stuff, but you can be passionate to be an environmentalist. You don't need to be an expert in the field. And people think that environmentalists, the word is connected with being annoying and being crazy and having passion. There's nothing wrong with being passionate about the earth and the environment because it's beautiful because of what it is. But environmental scientists rarely classify themselves as environmentalists because of the stigma that's around it. We're scientists, we use facts and we don't go by emotion, but rather use facts and try to make a difference in policy or in the field rather than going out and being flashy. So I don't like to say that I'm an environmentalist. It's what people don't like to hear.
Right. I agree. So our last question is a big one, and it's what's next? What's after college? What do you want to do with the world and or our country? And what do you really want to be remembered for?
Well, Lori, who runs Work It, She classifies me as environmental policy. I definitely think that policy, which is, you could go into law, you could go into making small changes like I did last semester, make in that class with that project. That would be a policy change that we would implement in the school. So I'm not quite sure what I want to go into. I know definitely sustainability, but I really need more schooling for that. A job that I wouldn't mind would be educating people on anything in that field, especially recycling, because that's what started it for me. Probably even being a representative for a recycling company and going out and saying, well, you can't put that in here. We need better labels. We need a universal recycling system. So anything from me that has the maximum amount of impact. Right now, what's becoming more attractive to me is somehow getting involved with climate change, because as more and more studies are done, more and more scientists are coming out and saying that this is really urgent. We really need to decrease our carbon emissions, how much fossil fuel we burn, by 2030, or else it looks really bad. And 2050 is the deadline to get to pretty much zero, which carbon emissions, which is really sounds impossible with at the rate that we're going right now. So whatever presents itself to me, I'm going to be involved in as many little projects here and there, compost, literally anything that I can do to make small change and eventually big change.
Right. I appreciate that. And you talked about educating people, and you've already educated me and probably everyone who's watching this. So when you target educating people, do you want to educate everybody, or do you want to maybe educate the younger ones and have them know when they're younger?
So educate, well, everyone that I come in contact with, if they are willing to talk to me about it. I know for some reason it's become a political issue when it's purely scientific, and a bunch of conspiracy theorists have come to me and say, no, it's not real. I'm like, oh, that's caused by someone else. I have no idea what you're talking about. So on a personal level, everyone that I come in contact with, but I want to do bigger than just in a classroom. I know teachers make a huge impact on many children's lives, but I think someone does need to go out there and create programs for children. In the sustainability conference that I was in, someone proposed that as a plan, and they said, when I get older, when I finish my degree, I want to go out and make programs. I want to make it universal education, that this stuff is really happening, teaching science instead of politics. But I think policy programs and educating people on a personal level, not necessarily becoming a teacher, but a world educator.
I see what you mean. So I really do think that you have the ability to change the world if you keep going down the path you're going.
Thank you.
I mean, maybe the world. I mean, it's
our small slice of the world.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my last question. So thank you for being on this podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
And that's a wrap.